Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the AI for RevOps HUG. For anyone new, I'm Clement, co-founder at Celestial, co-hosting AIRops HUG with Nate, our CEO, and Brian Garvey from Profoundly. Quick context for today. In June, as you recall, Chris Tveter gave us the partner view on Breeze Credits, and today we'll talk about Breeze Credits from HubSpot perspective. I won't say we planned it so timely, but we didn't, but this session is really nicely aligns with recent updates on HubSpot side that happened in the past few days. Now, custom agents moved into public beta, which means they consume HubSpot credits now. HubSpot launched Agent Hub and Agent Builder. So I'm super excited to have a good friend of mine joining us today. Yes, the one and only Kyle Jepson. I don't think I need to introduce you to Kyle, but for those of you who might not know him, Kyle is a HubSpot Evangelist, and if you learned HubSpot from Academy, there's a good chance you already learned from him. So we'll cover several topics, and after Kyle's presentation, we'll have time for Q&A. Kyle planned a lot of time for Q&A. He's already terrified of what we'll be asking him, so give him a break, give him some time to breathe. But if you have any questions, post them in the chat, save them for later. Every question is welcome. I think we can all learn from each other. Kyle, again, thank you for joining us. Super excited to have you here. Over to you without further ado.
Great, thank you so much. Yeah, delighted to be here. I'm really grateful that I get to speak on this topic. Credits is a thing I've been meaning to wrap my head around and haven't really had the necessary nudge to motivate me to go deep on it. This presentation has done that. I feel like I have a good understanding of it now, and I'm excited to share that with you. And yes, as Clement said, all questions are welcome. I do have a hard stop at the end of the hour because I'm going to go run the admin hug. But please, let's continue this conversation. If I'm not able to answer something at all or in the depth you need, if you're not already connected with me on LinkedIn, connect with me on LinkedIn. Let's keep the conversation going. I would love to explore all the corners and the nooks and crannies of credits and get us all on a shared understanding of that. So that is the goal for today. I have prepared some slides for you, and we will get into HubSpot and the credit management tools in there, and then we will get over to Q&A and see how far we get before I have to hop off. But let's just let's dive right in here. This is I just took this from the pricing catalog on HubSpot. This is the unit price of each of these features. And the conclusion I have come to is that I appreciate HubSpot's attempt at transparency. We are honestly doing our best to make this as clear to you as possible. But I feel like if you just look at these numbers, you are going to get the wrong idea about how this works. There are few different agents that have a 10 credit price point, right? And so you might suspect that the cost of those things is essentially the same. But what matters so much is the volume that these tools operate at. And I think the best way to understand that is to work through an example. So let's look at two different features, both that have a 10 credit price point. Buyer intent is one, whether you're automatically adding companies from visitor intent or research intent, that is 10 credits a company record, or if you have company records already in the CRM and you want to track buying signals for them, that's going to be 10 credits per company per month. But both of these, 10 credits per company. And in your subscription, if you're professional or enterprise, you have credits included. Professional gets 3,000 credits a month. Enterprise gets 5,000 credits a month. So this is either 300 or 500 companies a month. Honestly, to me, that feels very manageable. After building this presentation, I am bullish on buyer intent. I think everyone should just go ahead and turn it on and try it out. It's pretty unlikely that right out the gate you're gonna blow through all your credits and things are gonna get out of hand at this price point and at this volume. So that to me feels like very manageable. 10 credits, what a great deal. This is fantastic. Another feature with a 10 credit unit price is smart properties from Data Agent. And these are 10 credits per fill. And depending on how you use them, you might have a very different experience here than you do with buyer intent, right? Because if we build 5 of these properties, right, 5 on a contact object and 5 on the company object, well, now it seems like maybe we're at 100 credits, except it's per fill. So how many records do you have? If you want to backfill your whole database and you have like 25,000 companies and 250,000 contacts, well, now you're at 2.7 million credits, right? And so this is not how we're recommending you use smart properties. I don't think anyone at HubSpot would tell you, like, yeah, build some smart properties and then backfill it for your entire database, because that's going to get out of hand really quickly. But the point here is you might look at buyer intent and say, oh, 10 credits, great. And you might look at smart properties and say, 10 credits, great. And you might think these things cost roughly the same amount, but they don't. One is much more likely to run away from you than the other. Smart properties, if you're setting them up right, you can set when they fill themselves. If it's manual only, that'll be very bounded. If it's automated based on, when a deal reaches a certain deal stage, we're gonna pull together this information from call transcripts or whatever, that would be very bounded. But if you're just building these like you normally build properties and then having it fill them all, you're gonna have a real bad time. And so, yeah, 970 times over budget or 550 times over budget in this particular example. So what you need to think about as you're thinking about credits is some of these, and I've done my best to categorize these. I would say buyer intent, customer agent, prospecting agent, and content agent. These have pretty bounded volumes, right? Even content agent, which has the highest unit price, it's 1,000 credits per piece of content it produces for you. I think in most cases, if you're using Content Agent, you're going to be manually running it, right? You're going to say, yeah, build me a blog post, and then it'll do it, right? The likelihood that that'll run away from you is pretty low compared to like Data Agent or workflow Breeze actions, right? If you have high volume workflows that are using Breeze actions for hundreds or thousands of records, it's a little harder to keep tabs on that, and it can run away from you. Now, the good news is, if you are just using your included credits, 3,000 or 5,000, these features turn themselves off when they run out of credits. So I wouldn't expect that you would get a bill for however much 2.75 million credits costs you. But this is a different sort of problem, right? Like if your workflow suddenly stops working because you've run out of credits, or you're depending on these smart properties to be filled and you run out of credits and so they stop filling, there's not really a good way in HubSpot right now to get visibility into, if you did do a full system backfill on a smart property and you ran out of credits, it would be pretty difficult to understand exactly how far it went. It doesn't work like alphabetically or by record number, and so you just kind of have to sift through. There is no queue, so it wouldn't pick up again next month, right? So you just might get yourself in sort of a mess. So I encourage you as you think about these tools, not just to look at the unit price, but to think about what sort of volume you might have with them and what might contribute to that going up or down. So I built this little interactive calculator here, right? So to sort of demonstrate this, buyer intent, again, you can track kind of a lot of companies, and you're not going to hit the pro level till you're around 300. You're not going to hit the enterprise level till you're around 500, right? This is not going to contribute enormously to your overall credit consumption. Customer agent burns through it a little faster, right? Now this is tied, I think customer agent's pricing is the best credit pricing we've figured out so far at HubSpot because it's by resolution. So if you turn on customer agent, even if you have a very high traffic channel and it's responding to a lot of questions and inquiries, if you haven't trained it well enough for it to actually answer and resolve those tickets, it's not going to cost you a thing. It's once it starts actually providing value to your customers and saving time and energy on your team that it starts to consume credits. And so, yes, this one slides much faster because it is 50 credits per resolution. But to get to the point where you're getting a lot of resolutions, you have to invest in training it up. And by the time you get to that point, you will feel, oh, wow, we are reaching customers we didn't reach before, or our team has more bandwidth now. And that is like a transactional thing. It's actually saving you money. It may earn its keep, right? In a way that who knows if your workflow that you built does that or not. Prospecting agent has a pretty high per unit cost, 100 per suggested lead. And so that's one that, if you want it to give you thousands of leads, that could get pretty pricey pretty fast. But when you set up prospecting agent, you set limits on it. You tell it how many suggestions you want per month. and it will stick to that. And so you can decide what your credit budget is for prospecting agent, and stick to it. Then workflows and data agent are the really volatile ones, right? Like workflows may be where you all are the most comfortable. This is, AIRops HUG. You've probably built a lot of workflows in your time. You're probably accustomed to just turning them on, and it doesn't cost you more or less if more or fewer records are enrolled in it. But if you're gonna put some breeze actions in there, you're really gonna want to think about the volume of that. And data agent is similar, right? You're welcome to build as many smart properties as you want, but once you start filling them for a lot of records, the cost will be there, right? So you can handle this. You can bound it by having fewer smart properties, or you can bound it by being really smart about when and how those properties get filled. Highly recommend doing a little of both, right? Data Studio is interesting. Depending on the size of your data set, exporting it or using it in a workflow or whatever costs a different number of tokens, or credits. So 25 for a small data set, which is less than 500,000 rows, 75 for a medium-sized data set up to 5 million rows. And if you're more than 5 million rows, it's going to be 200 credits per use. And this one, like, again, can become very expensive very fast, but this is almost going to entirely be manual, right? You're going to say, I want to export these records, or you're going to say, I want to enroll these records in a workflow. And you're going to click that button and you're going to know, okay, this is, a mid-sized data set. We are burning 75 credits here. That is not terrible, right? It is unlikely to me you're going to have 5,000 uses of this per month if you're doing it manually, right? More likely you're going to be 10 or 15 or something like that. And then content agent, again, the most expensive per use, but also fairly manual. So I don't really expect that one to run away from you. Content agent, it's interesting to me that it's the 1,000 credit price point, because it's the one, if I'm in the HUG, someone is most likely to say, like, yeah, but AI content generation is bad, right? Like, I feel like this is where we have the most work to do to gain your trust. And so it surprises me it's at the highest price point. But if you think about like what it's producing, a full blog post, for example, we on the back end are using a lot of tokens, a lot of AI power to produce this. And so much of what we're doing here is trying to align our own costs with your value, because this stuff is expensive for us. It actually costs us real money to do AI stuff. And so we're just trying to get that pricing right. And that's where this usage-based pricing comes from in the first place. So based on all that, playing around with those sliders and things, this is kind of my intuition of which features cost more than others. I think data agent is out in the lead. I mean, if you are just building one smart property and you're manually filling it on like 5 properties a month, it's definitely not going to be the most expensive. But if you compare that on the opposite extreme to like buyer intent, it just feels to me more volatile. It has the potential to become more expensive, right? Prospecting agent has a high per unit cost, and it might be tempting to say, like, I need 100 new leads, right? Well, that's going to be quite a few credits. The others are somewhere in the middle. And what we can do is we can put another axis on top of this, which is how transparent, how reliable is the value to you, right? And so if we move, can you prove it was worth it? We can kind of drift these vertically, and we can build some quadrants. Everybody loves a good 2x2, right? So again, like buyer intent in this top left corner, I think it's low cost. I think it's high signal. I think if you haven't used any of these features yet, start with buyer intent, because it's just I feel like the cost is so reasonable for what you're getting. Then in this top right corner, customer agent is tried and true. HubSpot has a lot of confidence in customer agent's capabilities. We're staking some wild claims on our website, that like you can expect 70% resolution rate if you use it, right? And that's actually a pretty modest claim. We are seeing customers break the 90% resolution rate with customer agent. And so we really feel that 50 credit per resolution is a high value for you. And if you train customer agent and start using it, it's going to provide value to your customers. It's going to increase bandwidth for your team. I think customer agent is also a great first tool to try if you haven't used any of these. Then we get down to the bottom right corner. Prospecting agent, you're going to have to really think through how many leads do you want it to give you per month, right? And can you, do you work in a space where the signals it has and the research it can do is actually providing value to you? Is the outreach it's composing good and relevant and effective, right? You want to try that at a small volume and then ramp it up. Data agent, again, if you keep it within reasonable bounds, it's going to cost you almost nothing. But if you get a little crazy with the automation piece of it, it's the one that's most likely to get totally out of control. And so you just have to, these ones, you have to have a very clear idea of your goals, the outcomes you want, what you're willing to consume credits on, and then you'll be pretty good. Data Studio and workflows are the ones I put kind of lowest priority here. Workflows, again, might surprise you. You all know workflows. What could be more natural than building workflows for you all, right? And like, let's just insert some breeze actions in there. But unless you're really accustomed to watching and controlling the volume of your workflows, I think it'll be hard for you to get that right sized. And at the end of the day, can you say confidently that this workflow was worth this number of credits? And especially if you're paying for extra credits, can you say it was worth that cost that you paid? That's going to be really hard ROI to prove, right? Because as you all are well aware, operational lift is always seen as a cost center, and it's not. The value is there for the company, but it can be very difficult to prove. And so, by all means, use workflows. By all means, put AI actions in there. But just know that it's going to be trickier for you to know if this is the best way to spend your credits, if you're using them effectively, if you're getting the value for what you're paying. And then Data Studio, yeah, I don't know how many of you have access to Data Studio. I don't know how many of you are using it. I think it's great, but it is like pay per click, right? Like you built this beautiful data set. Now you want to export, or now you want to use it in a workflow. You're going to consume credits for that, and it's going to, again, is this export, is this workflow enrollment worth that credit cost? It could be. The answer might be yes, absolutely. But there's not like a spreadsheet or mathematical equation that's going to prove that for you. You just have to decide what your priorities are and decide whether to invest in that. And then Content Agent is here in the middle. I, for the life of me, can't figure out what to recommend about Content Agent because its unit price is so high, but it is basically fully manual. I don't expect it to get out of control, but you're going to want to compare that to the cost of like hiring a freelancer, or how would you get this content in the first place? Are you freeing up time for someone, freeing up time for yourself? This is it might make a ton of sense for some of you. It might make no sense at all for the rest of you. There's just so much about your own context that's going to determine whether or not Content Agent is worth that 1,000 credits, and that's something you just have to resolve within your own heart. So here are some stats. When Clement asked me to speak, he asked for some real world stats. Again, Customer Agent is the one we're most confident in. You can find these stats all over HubSpot's content. We really believe 70% automatic resolution conversations is achievable for you. We would not be surprised if you see or break 90%. You're going to see faster ticket resolution. You're going to see higher satisfaction. Just Content Agent is a dream when it comes to outcomes. And that's why we're pretty confident in that outcome-based pricing. Prospecting Agent is showing a lot of promise. It is younger than Customer Agent. We don't have the depth of data, so we can't like super confidently say this is going to change your business the way we say for Customer Agent. But it's looking great. We're getting a lot of positive feedback. We're seeing a lot of good results. Again, like you can set the limits on how many leads it's going to recommend to you. If you turn it on at a low volume, give it a try, see how it works. You can let it earn your trust over time, and that's definitely the right approach. Data Agent, we're starting to publish some stats around, but these are a little fluffy, honestly, right? These are more aggregated. Yeah, teams have saved 500,000 hours of manual work. That doesn't mean you personally are going to save 500,000 hours of work, right? You might not even live 500,000 hours. But the point is, we are excited directionally about what we're seeing here. And you're going to see more and more of this. HubSpot is trying really hard to figure out outcome-based pricing. We want things like Customer Agent resolved a ticket for you. That is worth the value of the credits. We're still figuring that out for our other agents. And some things, if you want to talk about like smart deal progression, for example, it's so young, it's so new, it's still beta. Like we just don't have the data from our customers to know what kinds of stats we can promise you. So there's that. One thing I know that is very important to some of you, depending on your location or your industry, is data hosting and AI processing and privacy and compliance and all that. Um, the answers here are way above my pay grade. I am absolutely not a lawyer. Um, but HubSpot has certain things in place that should give you confidence, but it's not to the point that I can just say, yeah, just trust us, it's going to be fine, right? So CRM data can be stored in your chosen region. AI providers cannot train on your data. We don't allow that. And there are transfer mechanisms in place if you need to move things around. All of that has been around since before we started dabbling in AI. All of that should give you some peace of mind. But we are partnering with OpenAI and Anthropic and others in these AI tools we're providing. And there is information, going back and forth. So you really need to, I don't know if this is too small to see, but we make no warranty that a specific hosting location will meet your data residency requirements when it comes to AI processing, right? So that's something you need to look into if that's important for you. And AI processing location requires tracing. You'll have to, we provide as much information as we can, but some of this you will have to dig through on your own with your own lawyers and make sure, especially if you're in a high security sort of industry or you're in certain locations in the world, it's worth your while to do the due diligence here. And I apologize that there's not just a one size fits all answer I can give you right here. But we are doing the best we can over the things we control, but there are certain things we don't control, and that's just something you need to be aware of if this matters for you. I've talked a little bit about usage-based pricing. I personally am really excited about this. When Customer Agent moved to per resolution pricing, that to me was a huge aha moment. We haven't figured this out for everything, and it's going to get more complicated, right? You now can create custom agents, and how many what's the unit cost on credits for custom agents? Totally depends on what that agent is doing, right? There's a lot of variability that just got introduced into the system with Agent Hub. And I think it's the right move, but it's going to take us a while to get this figured out. And so much of what we need is people using these tools and achieving outcomes and us aggregating those statistics so we know what value is actually being provided, and we can fine tune the tools to actually deliver on the promises they're making. Until we know how well they perform, we don't know what to charge or what to count as success. And so all of this is sort of future state, but it is the direction we're moving. And I would expect usage-based pricing to become more and more common in HubSpot as we move forward. And on that, Clement wanted some roadmap. If I knew what these future pricing decisions were, I would absolutely be material non-public information that I could not legally share with you. But I tell you honestly, I don't know. These conversations are ongoing. I don't think anything's been decided. If it has been decided, they haven't told me. We've got a lot to figure out, and we're going to have to stay nimble, and we're going to have to try some things and maybe change our minds and try different things. And I just really appreciate you in advance hanging with us as we get this sorted out. I think ultimately the future will be really great. To only, the promise, the potential of usage-based pricing is that you're only paying for the tools you're actually using, right? And you get to control how much you use them and how much it costs, rather than just having a flat subscription that covers everybody's usage, everybody's maximum usage, right? Again, I don't mean to say, yeah, HubSpot gets rid of subscriptions and we go all in on usage-based. I don't know. I have no idea what's going to happen. I think there is a bright utopian future in that direction. I think it could also be a disaster and everyone would hate us for it. We have a lot to think through. I don't have the crystal ball on this one, but it seems inevitable to me that change and evolution will happen. So be ready for that. Now let's hop into HubSpot. This is HubSpot. This is what it looks like to manage credits inside HubSpot. If you have not been looking at this page, I highly recommend you spend some time looking at this page. So you can get here just by, there's like a HubSpot credits thing here, or if you go to pricing and features, oh no, not that, account and billing. Anyway, you'll land here. There's a HubSpot credits line. Here you can control your credits. Now, if you are just using your included credits, the 3,000 or 5,000, whatever you have, there's going to be less to do here. You can still set limits per feature, right? So if you just do not want to allow workflow actions or do not want to allow custom agents, for example, You can set limits on these things and turn them off if you want. So you have control over that if you are an admin type person at your business, and I think you should not sleep on that. That is an important thing to keep in mind. But once you add additional credits, which you can click this button and it takes you to a checkout page and you can buy a credit pack, then you start to get a lot of flexibility over how those credits that you just paid for are used and consumed. You can set a total monthly maximum. If you're just using included credits, your maximum is 3,000 or 5,000, and we don't let you turn that down because you get those credits, you should use them. But if you pay for a pack, you can choose where to set that limit, and it can be above the default is the amount you pay for, right? You pay for, look, I've paid for 8,000 credits. The default is 8,000 credits, right? And you can't go below that, just like you can't go below 3 or 5,000 credits. But you can set it above that if you want to give yourself room to explore. And then you can control whether this is going to be pay as you go or auto upgrade. So I currently have this set to pay as you go, right? I have paid for 8,000 credits. I've set a maximum of 11,000 credits. If we break that 8,000 credit mark, we're going to pay for each credit as we consume it. But once we get to 11,000, all the credit consuming features get shut down. We are not going over that mark, right? The alternative is auto upgrade. If you're trying to figure out how many credits do we need on a regular basis, you can set it to this, and then you can just use your credits naturally, and whatever level of credit consumption you hit this month, that will be the number of credits you're paying for on a monthly basis going forward. I think there is a world in which that makes a lot of sense, but maybe not your first month that you're exploring credits, right? Because maybe you'll accidentally set data agent loose and consume all the credits, and you don't want 2.75 million credits next month, right? There are things you need to think through. But again, we're trying to be thoughtful here. We're trying to give you control. We're trying to make this as easy for you as possible to have confidence in the way these are working. And then here you get some usage charts that can help you make these decisions of what limits to set. You can get a summary of some things. This is not interesting because it's just a test account I had the product team set up for me, so I could show you how it works. And those are essentially the controls. I don't have anything else to add there. So you set the guardrails and move that like you don't have any, right? I would encourage you, look at all these credit consuming tools, decide which ones are actually useful for you, set them up, put the right limits in place, and then just use them. Just turn them on. Once the guardrails are set, if something goes crazy out of control, it's going to hit whatever limit and get shut down. There's not a lot of danger. And especially if you haven't even purchased any credits yet, you have your 3,000 or 5,000, just turn things on. They'll turn off when they run out of credits, right? And you can get a sense of, do they provide you value? Do they help your customers somehow? Are they worth whatever credits they consume? And as you experiment with this over time, you will get a sense of right sizing things. So that's what I've got for you. As promised, we've left like half the time for questions, and as Clement mentioned, I'm terrified, guys. Like, I'm so happy to help in any way I can, and I meant what I said at the beginning. Connect with me on LinkedIn. That's what this QR code is for. Let's keep talking. I may have to forward your questions to other people at HubSpot who know more than I do. Happy to do that. That's no imposition at all. But please be patient if today your question is, I work in this particular industry and I have this particular question about how this particular agent processes this particular kind of information. I guarantee you I do not know the answer to that question. So that is where we're at there. I am finally now like coming out of a dream and looking at the chat. It has been here right in front of me the whole time and I've not seen anything. Can you guys just sound off in the chat real quick? Is it helpful for me to leave this slide up? Anyone still trying to scan the QR code? Or can I take it down so I can see your faces better and we can work through the Q&A together? Any opinions? Thanks, Brian.
I think we can just turn off the sharing so we can all see each other.
Okay, great. I prefer that. So,
thank you, Kyle. There are a few questions already dropped in the chat, but if anyone wants to just turn on the camera, ask things live, maybe we start there.
Ooh, yeah, bring it on. I'd love to meet some of you or meet you again because I do have friends in the room. I'm a little bit incompetent. I don't even know where the Q&A is. I don't see it.
Okay, so I'll start going through the chat to bring up some of the questions. There was a feature request kind of Q&A. Can we see credits spent on the company and contact with rollup for example, we've spent 2,700 credits on this company and associated contacts, like with breakdown.
Ooh, that's really interesting. I do not know of a way to do that. If anyone else does, sound off in the chat and let us know. But I think that's a fascinating feature request, especially if we imagine like a data agent filling in properties, for example, or a workflow, to have a card somewhere to see not just total aggregate credit spend over the course of the month, but for this particular company and its associated records, we've spent this month much. That's actually a really cool idea. As I
And
think about
related
it,
to
right? You
that,
close the deal for however much money and you see how many credits you spent to get that deal. ROA, done, right? Like, I think it would be really great for HubSpot. But that is definitely, I'm pretty sure, a feature request. Okay,
related to
Joshua, I
that one,
trust you when you
it's
say there
yeah,
isn't one. But yeah, I like that idea a lot.
yeah. All right. Is there a way to get that slider of different agents, how much it costs,
So
somehow being available?
yeah, I knew when I built it, people would want it. I'm so proud of it. This is just me and Claude playing around, making an interactive slideshow. I am happy to figure out how to share this. This is a custom coded HTML slideshow. And so I think if I just send you the HTML file, you can open it in your browser and it'll work theoretically. So yeah, I will just in the chat. Here's my email. Uh, send me an email, and I will send you the file. And hopefully that's fine. Yeah, would you prefer? I could make a version of it that's just the slider. Would you prefer that so it's not buried as a slide, or are the other slides valuable for
If
you too? Anyway, when you email me, just let
e-
me know which
e-
version you want.
Either
I can
way, if you can
I
make
can do it either
just a
way.
slider, I can share it directly in the community.
Oh, great. Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah. I
anyone
will do
can
that. I think
see
that's a
it.
great solution.
Awesome. Okay, further questions. If anyone has something to ask, just go ahead while I'm scrolling through the chat.
Oh, I think this is worth talking about. John just dropped in a question about getting started with smart properties and things failing to fire. Another thing that's important to know about the cost structure of smart properties is they consume credits every time they run, even if the output is null, which is a little frustrating. And so I mean, definitely, put some thought into how you build them, test them, see if they work. But there is, I don't know, there's just some inherent wobbliness I feel like with smart properties right now. When they work, they are truly excellent, right? You can have one that looks at call transcripts and pulls out a person's objections. That's pretty cool to have that aggregated. But sometimes fine-tuning it and getting it right takes a couple tries. So definitely test it on a small group before you run it on a big group. Um, but yeah. Uh,
There was another
I'm
question.
agreeing with the people in the chat though on your example. Sorry, John, I got so excited about your question I didn't read your example. Uh, yeah, I think a simple workflow would get you there. Um, I don't know how well this is an interesting thing to explore. When I think of using data agent, I think of really like text outputs. I don't know how it works with like enumeration properties and things. I think that is functionality it supports. But if you really just want like an active inactive toggle, I feel like data agent is probably overkill there. Although I do get the appeal of a property that just updates itself that way and doesn't need a workflow behind the scenes supporting it. But I don't think that's quite the use case smart properties were designed for. It was more like pulling information either from other data inside your HubSpot in your CRM or by doing web research and displaying it in a way that normally would be very difficult to get to it. How data agent and AI help on campaigns? That's a really interesting question. Um, I so I don't know if it's technically data agent, but Marketing Studio, which is the new home for campaigns, and it has like this canvas where you can lay things out, has a fair amount of AI built into it. And and you can have it like generate uh, first drafts of things. I don't know if that's the same as like a content agent 1,000 credits or if this is a separate thing. Also, some of there's this private beta right now for a tool we're developing currently called Teamwork. Hope we rename it because I find that confusing. But it is connected to Marketing Studio, and you can describe like, yeah, we're trying to do this thing and we need like a form and we need an email and we need and it'll build them all and put them in Data Studio. So that is a point that is evolving. I don't think it falls under the umbrella of data agent specifically, but we are investing in AI for campaign creation and maintenance and automation. Um, I don't know what pricing structure that falls under, and that would be a good thing for me to know. I appreciate the question, but uh, if the question is there AI stuff happening in campaigns? The answer is yes. Uh, but I don't think it's specifically data agent. So that's that.
Which probably also means you don't have a good answer to another question, which was in the marketing studio doing an entire campaign with blogs, social media, etc. How much does it cost?
How much does it cost is a great question. I don't know the answer to that. So it's funny. When did I agree to do this talk, Clement? As a month or two ago. I went to HubSpot's pricing catalog and I grabbed the table and I put it into this presentation and off I went. And then literally just yesterday, I had the thought, I should check and make sure that pricing table hasn't changed. And I went and Content Agent had been added. It wasn't there a month ago. And so I don't know if that means it recently came out of beta and started consuming credits when it wasn't before. I don't know if this is like some evolution of things. But when I first started putting this talk track together, Content Agent was not on the list. And so I was not at all thinking about the associated cost of creating campaign assets, for example, or like taking content recommendations from AEO. But now some of those things cost 1,000 credits, which is a lot. And so I need to spend more time researching that, but it sort of took me by surprise.
Yeah. Another question was, are we still able to create assistants, no credit cost for internal processes, or do we have to create agents now, period?
Wait, say that again?
Sarah, you can maybe speak up if you're still with us. So the question from Sarah was, are we
Oh,
still able to
assistance. Oh,
create
oh, oh, oh,
assistants?
oh. Yeah, I found it. Assistants. Yes. Okay. Assistants are or will very soon be history. I forget the exact sunset date. They have not been replaced by agents. They've been replaced by projects. And projects are still free. So here, I will let me just I'll share my screen again. Do do do. Here we are inside my Happy HubSpot account. And actually, we'll go to a different Happy HubSpot account because I actually have a project I use on a regular basis. ABCD HubSpot tips and tricks. Okay, so this is the account where I publish all my daily social posts from. This is where I manage them. This is where I create them. And if you may have noticed, if you follow me on social, that all of my social posts, the body follows the same structure. There's in brackets what subscription level is required for this product. There's some snappy Kyle Jepson description of what the product does. There's some hashtags, and then there's a link either to the product or to the product updates page to opt in. And what people kept asking me is when I talked about betas, what's the beta called and all that. So I built a project to write these for me. And that none of that is super relevant to you, but the point is you used to have custom assistants and you'd have like a little drop down here and you could choose the assistant and it had its own instructions and you could chat with it. What you have now is this little folder icon and you can choose a project like this one here. And I'll show you what this project looks like. I haven't added any additional context, but you can write out the instructions, tell it exactly what you want. Here I explain like the formatting I want this to have. You can upload files to give it additional context. You can choose whether it has access to browse the web or write to the CRM. And then you can choose if this is just only you can use this project or your teammates can. So I think this is a lot the same functionality as the custom assistants had. And then leave, right? So then if I want to use this, I just click into it. And now I'm using this project and I can ask it to write a post for me and it will do it. And that is, as far as I know, still free. So projects were introduced after custom assistants. As the two both progressed and matured, there started to be a lot of overlap between them. And we decided to lean into the projects angle rather than the custom assistance angle. But the hope is that the same functionality is all there and it's all just part of Breeze Assistant, so it doesn't cost you anything. Um, there may be instances where you want to build an agent that would do something that an assistant did before, but I wouldn't expect that to be the norm. I would expect projects to typically be what you want.
Awesome.
Good question. Thanks for asking that one. I knew the answer to it.
Uh, it's probably fresh from the past few days when, you might regret again taking the talk. Agent Hub, credits involved there. What's happening there? How all that is
Yeah.
structured?
Yeah, no, I'm happy to talk about that one, but you are right. It is fresh and we are learning this together. And I don't just mean like me personally and you all personally. HubSpot itself, I think we'll have a lot of learning to do as we work on this. But if you come to Agent Hub, go to Agent Hub. So I created a custom agent. It's a deal audit agent. So the idea of this is when deals reach a certain deal stage, it's going to look at certain deal properties. It's going to look at notes. It's going to look at call transcripts, and it's going to compare that to my official sales process, and it's going to give the sales rep a report card. It's going to say, here's where you're really strong in our sales process. Here's where you probably need a little coaching or training. And the idea is that then the rep and the manager can talk about that together and figure out how in the future they can manage deals better, is the theory. So I created this and I've run it, I think, twice. Yep, 2 total runs this month. So there's not a lot of data to go on. But if we look at this, you can set a monthly agent run limit. So this is important to know. If you create an agent, a custom agent inside Agent Hub, you can set a limit on how many times it's allowed to run per month. And here it will tell you the average credits per run. But obviously, it can only tell you that if you've already run it, right? So really, the world right now for custom agents is you can build an agent that does whatever you can imagine, but you won't know how many credits it consumes until you've run it. And the first time you run it, you might get one number, and that might not, depending on how dynamic it is, depending on how many sources of information it's pulling together and how much information it has to process, it might cost very different amounts per run, right? And so you'll have to run it a few times. And maybe during that time you are fine tuning the instructions. Oh, it didn't output this. Oh, I'd like it to also do this thing. So then that number changes over time. And so, yeah, by all means, put a limit on this. Don't let it get out of control. But right now, predictability is really low. And I honestly don't know how HubSpot can solve that problem today. Hopefully, as more people use this and we learn more, we can, start to try to predict how much these things will cost. But for now, you might have one agent that consumes like 20 credits per run, and that's great. And then you might have one that consumes like 150 credits per run, right? And that's maybe less great. And so this is tricky. This is so new. Highly recommend if you're going to play around with custom agents, do put some sort of monthly agent run limit on them that is aligned with however many credits you have. And just to be sure, right? Maybe even before you run it for the first time, set whatever that limit is, and then run it and figure out, and then you can maybe right size that limit over time. But I think just creating agents and then automating them in those new fancy agent workflows without having a limit in place is probably a little reckless, and I would not recommend that path. I don't know. Does that get to the heart of what you're asking? Is there more we should talk about with Agent Hub?
If anyone has questions on that, we are already working on having one of other HubSpotters talk directly about Agent Hub and everything. So
Amazing. Yeah, there's
there'll
a
be
there's a
a
lot to unpack
whole
there. It's a
session.
pretty cool tool set. Um,
If if I can say something about that, hi
yeah.
Kyle.
Hello.
I actually built 2 agents for my customers
Yeah.
this week, and I set the limit. The problem is that once you run once you reach the limit, even if you increase it, it doesn't go back running.
Oh, really?
And that's a problem.
Yeah. I didn't know that when I made the recommendation I just made 3 minutes ago, friends. So
No,
maybe
that's okay. I didn't either, and I thought it would be enough. And now we're kind of stuck for almost a month till their credits till it renews. So I had to
yeah,
find this kind of a workaround to sort it out somehow in a much less complex workflow
yeah.
and branching.
Yeah, I hope you have found a place to submit that feedback, but I'm taking a note. Let's see. Agent run limit needs to be changeable, increasable. And then Joshua, what was your thing? It was like credit usage per for a specific record and its associations. Yeah, these are great notes. I will send them to the product team. It's later today.
Thanks.
But yeah, that does not match my intuitions of how that would work. I feel like a lot of times with limits in HubSpot, if I think of like marketing contacts and things, you can generally increase them. It's decreasing them that's hard. And so I don't know why this is different. That's interesting.
Any other questions? There was one new one. So, do you have any best practices or workflows for finding and adding key decision makers once buyer intent automatically adds a new high intent company to our CRM?
That is a great question, Chase. I have kind of the today answer and the tomorrow answer for you, which I know can be a little frustrating. Karina is right. Prospecting Agent is designed for that. But for finding specific contacts, right now that requires an integration. You're going to want to connect it to either Apollo, Surf, or Zoom Info. Those are the three supported ones right now. And then it will combine what we know about intent and the other signals with what's in those databases to surface specific contacts. You can set up in Prospecting Agent what roles you care about, what pain points you solve for, what your value proposition is, and it will take all that information and it'll search that database and surface contacts for you. But if you don't have Apollo or Surf or Zoom Info, then HubSpot doesn't have a great answer for you today. Contact sourcing is something we're working on. This is on our public roadmap. I have no idea what the time frame is for that, and I don't know what the functionality will look like when it is live. I haven't seen it, but it's conceivable that maybe at our flagship event Unbound in a couple months we will unveil some version of this, maybe even just like a early beta, and then we'll have a better answer of what the HubSpot native version of this looks like. But for now, Prospecting Agent plus an integration is going to be your best solution for identifying those decision makers, with a better answer in the works and hopefully coming soon.
Yeah, any more questions?
Well, I would not mind being able to scoot off to my own hug. But again, please connect with me. Please send your questions. I totally understand if like you didn't want to ask a question to the group, but you still want to ask a question. I am here to help. I evangelize HubSpot to all of you, but then I advocate for all of you to HubSpot's product team. So if anything doesn't make sense, if you have feedback, if you have questions, if you're wondering how to make some of this stuff work, please let me know. Happy to be a resource to you. And even if I can't answer your questions, I'll find someone who can. That's what I try very hard to do.
Thank you, Kyle, for joining us. Really great having you
Thanks for
here.
having me.
Many of us see you at Unbound, as you said, in a
I
few
hope so.
weeks, months' time. To the ones who are going with Kyle to Admin HUG, have fun there. Otherwise, see you in a few weeks at the next session of AI for RevOps.
Thanks,
Take care,
everyone.
everybody.